YouTube, how's it going? The Go Nows is back. Just a couple days away from the NFL draft, and I have my big board for you guys in this video. We're going to be talking about 50-plus players in this video. Excited about that, and the other videos we will get to before the NFL draft, including my final mock draft. Any very last-second updates and predictions on our Twitter. Also important to follow that because I'll be tweeting out the spreadsheets for position rankings and big board, things like that, and live analysis for every single pick, day 2 and 3. For day 1, it'll be live right here on YouTube, so make sure you like, subscribe to notifications on. All kinds of content coming here on the channel. And then we have our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, have the Micah Parsons chain, which he actually wears in-game from the GLD Shop. Have that on right now. They have more NFL players and teams. Links pinned in the comments for all that. My big board, I have CJ Stroud as my number 1 overall player. Now, he isn't he's being talked about a lot right now, but for the wrong reasons. Sounds like he could slide a little bit. Very surprising to me. You know, kind of holding out hope that the Colts take him at 4. I mean, I'm not a Colts fan, but, you know, I'm just hoping for every team to make the right decision here. Take Stroud over a guy like Levis or even Richardson, whether you like those guys or not. You know, Stroud's the way to go. But accuracy, that's it with C.J. Stroud. He is extremely accurate. There is not too many quarterbacks in draft classes every year that are as accurate as him. The ball comes out on time. The pocket movement's fantastic. He's got your prototypical size you're looking for. I mean, he's got more than one game on tape that is very good, but you just keep going back to that Georgia game, which was just absolutely ridiculous. But there's more behind it than that. You know, everybody struggled against Georgia. You hear quarterbacks talk about playing the Georgia Bulldogs, and they're just different. You know, it's just so hard to game plan. It's so hard to play against them. Just NFL talent everywhere. And Stroud actually improves his game in that game. He plays better. Tells me he's made for the moment. And you do worry about the S2 test, I suppose. I mean, you definitely got to care what happened on the field a little bit more, obviously. But he looks like he's smart enough on the field. I've seen him read coverages, go through his progressions, get the ball in time, like I said, and play better against better competition where you have less time to think. A lot of pressure on you. And I know he didn't win that game, but he did plenty enough to win that game, and Ohio State had that. So, big fan of C.J. Stroud. Yeah, I think he's a plug-and-play starting quarterback. Somebody's going to get better with him. I think he really fits all systems. You know, I guess you're not going to put him in a system where he's running constantly, but he can move, and he showed that in the Georgia game as well. So, Stroud's that quarterback everyone should be looking for. He showed rapid improvement, too, from when he started at the beginning of 2 years ago compared to now as well. Elite grade for me, my number 1 overall prospect in the draft. There are some teams it feels like, and some people overthinking it a little bit right now. It happens all the time. Number 2 is going to be Will Anderson for me, the edge rusher from Alabama. Quite a few Alabama guys to talk about here. Number 1 edge guy in the class, elite grade. You know, what I look for in terms of the pass rusher, a lot of things, but I need to see you explode off the ball and get after the quarterback. I mean, it's pretty plain and simple. You know, that's not rocket science right there. Everybody should be looking for that, and I see that big time from Will Anderson, and we've seen him be very productive the last few years. I think he fits any scheme. You know, he can stand up. He can put his hand in the dirt. And more teams are kind of not stuck in one or having their edge rushers do one thing, so they're kind of mixing it up a little bit more. So he's versatile as an edge rusher, and what schemes he can play, standing up, playing, hand in the dirt there on the line. Just super explosive, big-time athlete, big-time playmaker. And another thing, too, in which I love when I look at prospects, too, you know, when do they show up? He showed up in big moments. You know, 3rd down, 4th down, need a big-time play, games on the line. I thought he got, impact pressure if it wasn't a sack or a bigger play than that. You know, at least got that impact pressure, that big-time pressure that caused or that disrupted something. So I saw that a lot. Just love the way he explodes off the ball and then to the quarterback and disrupts plays. So he's my number 2 player in the draft. Number 3 is going to be Jalen Carter, which actually the off-the-field issues do play a part here. He would be my number 1 player. You know, plain and simple, he'd be a number 1 player because he's talking about disruptor, Will Anderson. I think when you find that good of interior defensive linemen, they are the ultimate disruptors. They change the game so much, and I think a big reason – well, one reason is because they affect if they're that good, they affect the run game and the pass game. So that's one. But 2, I mean, looking at the pass game, it's a quick trip to the quarterback compared to the outside, trying to get around the tackle. So if you're that good, and or if you take on double teams and you're able to beat double teams like Jalen Carter, you are helping the rest of your team. They are feeding off of what you're able to do. He's a guy that can move around a bit. I mean, he has the athleticism to play like over the tackle if he wanted to. Won't call him an edge, outside the tackle. But, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to be able to do it. But, again, he can take on double teams. He can play D-tackle. He can play 3 technique. He can play the nose if you need him to. Passing downs, that's pretty smart, actually. Just get your best pass rushers out there, your best players on the field. So it's probably going to be quite a few guys that are just pass rushers, and Carter is able to do he's that, but he's able to line up anywhere, so that helps as well. So he's just the ultimate disruptor, and that is a big-time game changer. There's not too many of these guys in the NFL right now. There's probably more than ever, though, but talking about, I mean, he's not really, as athletic as Aaron Donald, but in terms of the game-changing disruptor they are from the inside, guys like that, what Jeffrey Simmons is becoming kind of reminds me a little bit, Carter reminds me a little bit of him. What a guy like Dexter Lawrence is becoming a little bit bigger, obviously, but these guys are game changers from the inside, and when you have a chance to get one, which is actually kind of rare, you go and get one. So in terms of the talent, I'd say he's the number 1 player in the draft, but there is some risk there. There's actually 2 things that knocks him down a little bit: the off the field risk. With his issues, and I'm not an expert with off the field, so it is a little tough to tell. I guess I could say, there's been other players with worse situation in terms of will it be a problem down the line? Like there was some situations in the past where that's definitely going to be a problem. This is a little bit more unknown, I guess I'd say. But another thing for me is, we've seen him out of shape at his pro day and not be able to finish it and wore down a little bit. That's just one day, of course. But honestly, we saw it on tape a little bit where he maybe wasn't the same player at the very, very end of the game because he was kind of gassed. So is that going to be a thing? Are we not going to get – and there was games even last year, both years, but 2 years ago I actually noticed a little more during the title run where, there was a game, where he just didn't get the amount of snaps you would like for him to see, and maybe that's why. So is that going to be a thing? So there are a couple things that kind of knocks him down, but just based off just pure talent, I think he is the best player in the draft. That's where it's a little tricky here with the big board. And then number 4 is going to be Bryce Young, who's likely the first overall pick, and he's extremely, extremely talented. I mean, big playability, keeps plays alive. I don't think he's as accurate as CJ Stroud, but he's pretty accurate. He might have more of wow plays, like wow flashy plays than CJ Stroud, really. And being able to use his leg, keep the plays alive. Make some crazy throws like crossbody or throw his receivers open. That's a big one. We've seen that from him. But again, just big play ability. I guess, when you look at the positives and negatives, there are some negatives, maybe what's keeping them. We talk about Carter has some, and they're really not in terms of talent. And Bryce Young is really not in terms of talent either. But yeah, he's a little undersized, and I've always been a believer in the smaller guys. Like if you can ball, you can ball. But the guys in the league right now aren't doing any favors, and he might be better than all of them. But the guys in the league that are a little undersized, or the guys that kind of scramble or run into contact a little bit, which Young did. He took some serious hits at Alabama, somewhere because he ran into them, those hits. But, so all of the above, the smaller guys and the guys that, have some durability issues going in, and the guys that run a little bit, scramble a little bit, they aren't doing him any favors. They're either not getting the ball over the line, their passes are getting deflected like crazy, they're getting injured, so durability issues kind of continue. I think Bryce Young's better than all those guys, and that's why we're talking about his elite prospect. Otherwise, we wouldn't be. If he was 6'2", then we'd be talking about the number 1 player in the draft. And he had we were confident about him. I don't think he's going to go in there and get hurt right away or year 1 or year 2. I'm not saying that. No way I can predict that or should ever say that. But you do wonder about the long-term durability here. So that is a little bit of a scare. But the crazy talent is definitely there. Sometimes, he gets a little crazy with his footwork in the pocket if we had a nitpick, a little bit. Or he'll run into sacks or maybe hold it a little too long. But other than that, there's a reason you talk about an elite prospect when it comes to Bryce Young, who is super talented, especially at his size there to play bigger than what he's at. Number 5 for me is Christian Gonzalez. Very high in Christian Gonzalez, and I have been for some time here. Total package type corner. That's what it comes down to for me with Christian Gonzalez. I mean, try to find negatives for him. You start talking about, he's a little thin, I guess. Even though he's got some size, length. Is he the most physical corner in the world? No, but he's pretty physical with his press, and he does have moments which people overlook of him coming, getting downhill and making a play. So it's hard to find like negatives for a guy like Christian Gonzalez, and that's why I'm this high on him and consider him an elite prospect. I like that he's effective in press and off. I like that he's effective in man and zone. I think he's a little more flashy in man because of the press and because the sticky, him being sticky in coverage and kind of being locked down. Teams kind of throwing away from him. They rarely even look to his side. But in zone, I don't think that gets talked about enough. The instincts take over. He's able to read the quarterback, and he actually leaves his zone to go to another to jump the ball and make a play on the ball. Became more of a playmaker this year. Went on Oregon, and he was in Colorado in the past, and he was very good there. It's why he went to Dan Lanning and Oregon's defense there. So kind of just a total package corner. And on top of that, I mean, the traits, I mean, you look at the athletic traits, he's a freak athlete. He's got the length you're looking for. He's got the size. Really, I guess you wish there was a little more bulk. So total package type guy. And I used to, back in the day, rarely rank corners this high unless they were like Jalen Ramsey. But lately, corners they're different. They're coming in and they're making a huge impact right away. Right away. And I think Christian Gonzalez, there is every reason to believe that he could be that guy to come in and make a big impact right away. So he's a top 5 player for me and an elite prospect. Number 6, got a running back up here. Not really surprising. A lot of people got him up here. I mean, it's an elite running back prospect. He's going to be a Pro Bowler maybe year 1. I don't think if you want to make the prediction, that he will be the best running back in football, we'll be saying he's the best running back in football after the complete year 1 season's finished. I'm not saying that's my prediction, but I think that is a decent prediction. I think that is very real. It's very possible. He is that good, that explosive, that that much involved as well. Running inside, outside, and catching the ball out of the backfield and downfield. So, how high do you rank a running back? But you got a legit running back here, and he's going to be legit for a long time. He did have some injuries in the past. He kept coming back from them, but that's the kind of the one thing. Really no negatives in terms of his actual running game, that running style, his play, really. And then number 7, who I'm very high on, is Brian Branch. I end up having more elite players than I thought, but to me, Brian Branch, nobody's calling him elite, and I can't really figure out why. I think I know why. I think it's because he's a slot corner that could play a little bit of safety. And it's not I guess it's not the sexiest position in the world, but you look at his game and how he played, how he made an impact in the Alabama defense. What negatives does he have in his game that says he isn't a top tier prospect? They don't exist. This is a big time player, super instinctive in coverage, whether it's man or zone, can play either. The slot position is taken over in today's NFL. It's a huge, it's an important position. Teams using it more and more, obviously. He's going to be on the field on every down. He is. And he's such an impact in the running game as well. I mean, you see the flashy plays he makes, the plays he getting in the backfield. He's all over the place, this guy. He's super instinctive. I think he's a safe pick. I mean, you know what you're going to get. He can help you no matter what coverage you're in on every single down. So there's nothing from Brian. I mean, maybe he's a little on the smaller side, but going to play slot corner. I'm not really too worried about. He plays way bigger than his size. Maybe he didn't run the 40 you wanted in the combine. He plays faster on the field. It's not like he ran slow. 4.5s is not slow. People forget. So, this at his position, which is slot corner, and he also can play a little safety, but at his position, he's an elite prospect at that position. He could be the best slot, and there's a few good ones, but he could be the best slot corner in football almost right away. So I'm a big fan of Brian Branch. Should make an impact right away. Number 8, another cornerback here, the second quarterback, Devon Witherspoon from Illinois, which is kind of borderline here, but if you're borderline, then he's not elite. But he's right there, top 10 grade for me. Really, really fun to watch. This guy, will come up and hit you in the mouth. High motor guy, flying around the field, very impressive in coverage as well, whether it's zone or man. better off than press, but he has the physicality that says he probably can play press. Negative on him, I guess he gets a little grabby, and this was his one super good year. Before this year was he known as a first-round pick. So sometimes we see it with players where they kind of go back to where they were, like, all right, yeah, that it hasn't really happened recently. I think these athletes are different these days, So I like him in the top 10. He's just extremely fun to watch. He's not far off with Christian Gonzalez. I think Gonzalez a little bit more complete, a little safer of a pick as well. But Witherspoon is very, very fun. So somebody's going to get an exciting big time playmaker here in the top 10. He's at 8 for me. Number 9, I actually have Darnell Wright, who I seem to be very high on as well. Another fun guy to watch. I mean, this guy's exciting to watch at tackle, which, you can't really say that about even other good tackles. But I think he's a plug-and-play guy at right tackle. I think he has the ability to play left tackle. And then, I heard some teams want to put him at guard. If you put him at guard, he's going to dominate guard. He's going to dominate it. He's going to be a Pro Bowl guard. But I like him at right tackle. He needs the right scheme, and that kind of goes with, you could say that it goes with almost every player, but especially offensive linemen, especially tackles. He does need the right scheme, which, a gap / man blocking scheme where it's a lot of north and south in the run game. That's what he ran a lot of that at Tennessee. But in terms of pass protection, it's all the same. Can he protect the quarterback? He can at a very high level. We saw that. But, you think a guy that weighs 333 pounds and, his big moments are, pancaking guys, throwing guys, usually those guys maybe struggle with the quick, speedy, explosive guys, but not Darnell Wright, and that's where people aren't talking about him. He mirrors edge rushers very well. I've seen guys try to put the spin move on him, and it's hilarious. That's probably his best moments. Actually, if we're getting specific, people's favorite moments probably when he throws somebody, but when somebody tries to, every game seems to be the same. Like they try to come at, because college guys usually don't have a collection of pass rush moves. So they try to come at Darnell Wright just the old fashioned way, bull rush or just straight line. And Wright's just too strong. And then they start, all right, I got to do something. I got to, put some kind of move together. And then he makes him look silly that way as well. So that's what I love. It felt like every game was kind of the same. And even playing Will Anderson, my number 2 overall player in the draft, head to head, Wright was better, like plain and simple. So, it makes you think. It makes you think a little bit. But so I mean, he displayed it, and I'm surprised he's been getting a little bit more buzz recently. But I'm surprised he's not talked about in this range. But again, kind of going back to scheme, like if there's a team that just really they're only going to run outside zone, something like that. There are tackles I will like, and we're about to talk about them in a little bit here. That I like better for those teams. Just it feels you just feel a little bit more comfortable. Of course, tackles can change schemes, but big body guy, playing in a scheme like that, Tennessee, gap, man scheme, which is plenty of them in the NFL. That's definitely where he fits best. So, and you see, I talked about him like with the Raiders. I love the fit. It was scheme wise, and I think he's worthy of that pick. I think people think it's crazy, but you see why I kind of been saying things like that. Then number 10 is going to be Peter Skoronski, who I like at guard, but he can play tackle. He played tackle at a high level, but you do worry about the length, but I think he could be a Pro Bowl guard. But, it's so important to get a guy in there that's versatile as well because offensive linemen go down like crazy. So, if he's starting at guard and like playing at a Pro Bowl level right away, which I could see, but then that team's tackle goes down, you can slide him out the tackle, and then maybe you have you don't feel good about your depth tackle, you feel good about your depth guard behind Skoronski. It works as well. I mean, you're not drafting him to count on that, but it's kind of a bonus here because he could play tackle at a high level. He just doesn't have that length, but he's going to be a bully of a guard. He's going to be a Pro Bowl guard. He could be maybe the best guard in football pretty soon. Just how high do you rank the guards? That's kind of the thing. But legit offensive lineman here from Northwestern. Wish he had a little bit more length, and we could be talking about as an elite prospect as a tackle, but I think most teams would take him as a guard. I think some teams would take him as a tackle, and he could end up being pretty good there as well. I mean, there's a reason we have him ranked pretty high. We kind of have a run on offensive lineman here. Number 11, I also have a top 10 grade. Now we're starting, the class is looking a little better than I thought, sitting down and kind of, getting these rankings together. So I have Paris Johnson Jr. at who's likely to be the first tackle taken. And if you're looking for a tackle and you're running outside zone, he's your number one. I'm putting him over Darnell Wright, and so that's where scheme comes into play big time. Big time there. But yeah, he's been getting a lot of buzz. Could go as early as 3. But yeah, I think it's a safe pick. I think he might be the safest of the offensive linemen, honestly. I think you know what you're going to get with him. It's a guy, worst case, you move to guard, and he's pretty solid there. But I think he's going to be fine at tackle, has ridiculous length, and the movement skills were pretty impressive for his big size there as well. So you see why, more teams probably running the scheme that fits him the best. So that's probably why he is getting the most buzz right now. But I do have him at number 11. And he's kind of got that top 10 feel where it's good if he go. I'm fine with it if he goes in the top 10, even though we have him ranked at 11. And then a couple of pass rushers, I'm very high on Myles Murphy as well. I'm good with taking him in the top 10. I watched tape on him, and you see a guy, a big pass rusher that has incredible get off, explodes off the ball, and he uses that big physicality in the rush. You see the bull rush is very good. You see him combining the length and the power, driving offensive linemen back, and then using that length to make sure they don't get hands on him. You've seen that pop up a bit. You've seen him use his physicality stopping the run too. He's pretty damn good stopping the run. You don't really have to work with him much there. But then you factor in that he's a freak athlete too. Running 4.5s, 4.6 range. So that's obviously a big bonus for a bigger pass rusher here. The only thing, I'm losing my voice here. The only thing he is missing right now is he needs more pass rush moves. He needs more moves to his game. It's mainly just a bull rush, which is pretty good because he knows how to use the power and length, like we said. So he doesn't have moves. And I think people are knocking him. They're knocking him too much for that. But that's what NFL coaches are for. There's certain things that are way harder to coach. Like it's kind of you either have it or you don't. But just teaching moves, like I've seen players post games in NFL, like teaching each other moves. It happens. So what do you think goes on in practice with coaches and other players? So if this guy, it just adds a little bit more to his game, he has everything else. Like he's going to be special. Like he's going to be better than number 12 in this class. And he can do it. So I love the upside of a guy like Myles Murphy. I think people knock him a little too much just because maybe you watch the tape and you like what you're seeing at first, and it's like, wow, okay, but then it kind of is the same thing over and over again, and maybe you get a little bored. We're going to project, though, what he could be. So I like Myles Murphy. The number 13 and the last of my top 10 potential guys, like I'm good if you take him in the top 10. That's kind of how I grade. Like, I'm good with it. And he's a very, very, very interesting prospect. That's Tyree Wilson, and he's very tough to rank too because, I almost want to rank him higher. I mean, it really depends on where he goes and how that team uses him. And I've talked about this before with the edge rankings, but if we're talking strictly edge, like his play as a pass rusher off the edge, I guess other people are higher on him than me because, mainly with the get off. I mean, it's huge for me. How guys explode off the ball, that's step one. To beat the tackle, to get after the quarterback. Best pass rushers in football. I mean, you got Nick Bosa, you got Myles Garrett, you got TJ Watt, you got Micah Parsons right now. There's others, but these guys are so quick, so speedy. The reactions off the ball, insane. So that's step one with the pass rusher, and he is lacking that. Tyree Wilson is lacking that, and that's a problem for me. And yes, of course, Texas Tech had him sitting and reading quite a bit, and he was kind of playing run. Maybe sometimes it was him just worrying about the run so much because he does take pride in being a phenomenal run defender for a defensive end or an edge rusher here. That's a positive. But there's a lot of the times where he is the very last one off the ball, talking offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and I do not love that. But after that, everything's pretty good because he can win with his length. He's gotten sacks because of his length. He's beaten offensive line because of his length. He's won because of his power. But where I like him and where he can be an elite player and way better than 13 is pretty simple, really. It's pretty simple. A team drafts him and they use him pretty evenly, more so off the edge, I'd imagine, but edge and inside, over the guard, 3 technique, move him around. Keep him on the field every down, but move him around because he has experience in the inside, but sometimes when you put edge rushers inside, it doesn't really feel like there's enough room, and they can't really rely on their get off and their speed. They have to rely on power. Do they have enough of it? Tyree Wilson has the power, and then sometimes those edge rushers, are they, if the team runs the ball, can they handle that on the inside? Are they that good of a run defender? Wilson is. He has the power. He has the length that creates mismatches for guards, and he has the run stopping ability. So, okay, here's a guy. I sound like Collinsworth. If he had explosive get off the edge, and a team was going to take him to play outside and inside and create that mismatch, he'd be my number one player in the draft. He'd be my number one player in the draft. So even though I rank him probably lower than other people are ranking him, there are ways that I really, really, really could like Tyree Wilson. Like, really like him, probably more than everyone else, So that's where it's weird with me and Tyree Wilson here. So it really depends on what team takes him and how they use him. There's talk about the Texans taking him at 2. And I actually, believe it or not, I would not mind it, because I think D'Amico Ryans would use him right. And he would possibly look like the number 2 overall player. So I would not mind that, really. And it's a possibility. I know it's tough, taking him over Will Anderson perhaps, but maybe he can do more than Will Anderson. Maybe not as effective. He's definitely not as good as Will Anderson pass rushing off the edge. He's just not as good as Will Anderson, plain and simple. But there's a little more to it. So it's a tough guy to rank, as you can tell from me, but I can evaluate him. I know what he's about, but he could be very special in the sense of not getting a bunch of sacks off the edge, but that he is a big-time factor in a problem the way he aligns and creates mismatches. So intriguing prospect. I cannot wait to see where he lands. I've been mocking him to the Texans, and I'm okay with that, even though I'm ranking him 13 here. So that rounds out the top 10 grades for me. So we have a spreadsheet here, and we're running short on time to the NFL draft. There's a lot more I want to do. So but the spreadsheet, I like what I did here, and I will tweet out a link for this. But I think what people want more importantly is the position rankings. It kind of looks like this, but it's position rankings and round grade next to them. I tweet it out every year, so you have to follow Twitter to get that, and that'll be out probably on Thursday for everyone. Twitter subscribers been getting all this already. Some of this is still a work in progress. So you've seen, I got 2 monitors over here, so I'm looking where I can highlight. You've seen up until this right here. You just saw that. So tier 3 for me, I put them in the tier. I thought this was fun. It's something I didn't do before. This is kind of the mid 1 range. Could be, if they take them, early, middle, first round, if that makes sense. I'm good with it. But Jackson Smith-Njigba comes in at 14 for me. Extremely good route runner, and that's what we're looking for. Route running, footwork and separation kind of all go together. He has that. He has the big playability as well. I see him mid-play reading coverages. I love that. Absolutely love that. If he wasn't hurt all last year, and then we didn't see a limited sample size total, he would probably be bumped up a tier. So that's kind of negative on him. And will he be a factor on the outside? Will he just be a slot guy? That's a small negative because he can just dominate the slot. I got Anthony Richardson at 15, ultimate boomer bust. I'm kind of back and forth with him because the accuracy issues stink right now. They're a little stinky, because he's missing layup throws, wide open guys. I believe it's because of his footwork. When I watch, he's sitting on his toes a lot when he throws. I don't know why he's doing it, but he's doing it. I see it from quarterbacks sometimes. I think that could be fixed. I feel like that could be fixed, and I think it will be fixed, the footwork. But will that just automatically fix the accuracy issues? That's kind of the question there. But he does have ridiculous flashy plays that only really a handful of guys, not in the draft, in the NFL can make. They don't show up too often, but they're there. They're there. So there's a lot you want to work with. And of course, he has the running ability, but he showed me those flashes while throwing from the pocket, and he wants to be a pass-first guy. I love that because he looks like a runner, but he wants to be a pass-first guy. And you have to be a pass-first guy. You have to be a better passer. Not only do you have to be a pass-first guy, but you have to be a better passer than you are a runner to win a championship, to win a Super Bowl. That's just how it is. So I like that he wants to be that guy. But it is risky because he can continue to have the accuracy issues, and then he could, again, he wants to be a pass-first guy, but he could just end up being a run-first guy if he can't figure out the passing. So he's risky, very risky. Don't love the completion percentage. Kind of goes into what I was saying, but the upside is ridiculous. And I think the people that say upside because he's an athletic guy, I say that's actually not accurate. That's a bonus, but he has upside because the potential he has throwing in the pocket, outside the pocket as well, but actually being a pocket passer, being a pass-first guy, the arm talent, what he can be there is why he has so much upside. So I'd say the people that think he has upside because he's an athletic freak, I say that's actually wrong. But that's part of his game. That's fascinating. That's big. That's a bonus. Jahmyr Gibbs at 16. I've been a Gibbs guy since Georgia Tech days. I'm sure he doesn't have the running back one build, but he's a phenomenal playmaker that is involved in every phase of the offense. So I like Gibbs. He won't go. I know it's a big board, it's on a mock draft, but he probably won't go as early as 16, even though, again, it's different, big board and mock draft. Michael Mayer, I think, is a complete tight end. He can be a little less grabby in terms of blocking. Bring his simple fix, bring your hands in a little bit more. He likes to grab outside. I think they can fix that. But a pretty complete tight end. He's very underrated in terms of his footwork. He gets separation with his footwork. People somehow didn't see that. He's not going to do it like Kelsey. Nobody is. But he actually has some sneaky good footwork. He's been very productive. He is the best contested catcher of this draft class. Talking receivers and everything, he's the best. So at contested catches. He helps you in every phase. He helps you in every phase there. So I think it's a complete tight end. And people are sleeping on him a little bit right now. Deonte Banks at 18. Love the press ability. Love the man coverage skills. I think he has upside as a zone corner. Broderick Jones at 19. He's a tricky one. It's a boomer bust guy. It's a guy whose tape really wasn't that good, but you can see the flashes. You can see the upside, and he has the least amount of starts out of any tackle in the class. I think he was in the wrong scheme. That's my take. I'm sure somebody else has that take. Other people have that take out there. I haven't heard it. I'm not paying super close attention to that, but I am curious a little bit because I think he was out of scheme. And I think that was a reason for some struggles here and there because sometimes, a lot of it was with the north and south blocking, just straightforward. He kind of lunge at guys or try to use his body, put his head down a little bit. Where he thrives is out in space, which we saw when Georgia ran a bit of slip screens. But in the running game, I want them to pull them and get them outside. So I think an outside zone team takes him, and I think he has tremendous upside in an outside zone scheme. He will struggle at first still because he's still learning, but I think he has a lot of upside. This guy's either going to be a Pro Bowler, and that might be he might be an elite tackle, or he's going to be a bust. It's really one or the other is my feelings with Broderick Jones. I would like for him to go to an outside zone scheme. So the one top offensive lineman that actually want to switch schemes out of the top guys, like DeJuan Jones, I would kind of like for him. He's at exactly 50 I have right now. Joey Porter at 20. He needs a specific scheme as well. To me, he needs to go to a cover 4/cover 2. I'm fine with cover 3, but if he went to a team that runs, what do they run most of? Cover 4 and cover 2, and they have their cornerbacks press. Yeah, he's going to be good. He's going to be good because that's what he does. He's a boundary corner. I've seen specific moments in cover 2 where he made the offense look like he was in man coverage. That's what the NFL is looking for. NFL defense coordinators want to run cover 2, but you have to run it perfect if you're a corner because the corners only have the flats, like within 7 yards on the outside. But running it perfectly is, pressing, sticking with your man further down than your 7 or so yards, the flats, making the offense think it's man coverage, so you're running zone and man, kind of mixing it up, so you're kind of really throwing them off, but then being able to read the field, read the flat, read the quarterback, get back into your flat if you need to. You also have safety help over the top in that shell coverage. So Joey Porter can do that. He could do that. So I don't really like him in man. I like him in press because he's physical. I don't like him in man too much because he struggles against those in-breaking routes going across the field, and that's where he becomes more and more grabby as well. But he looks a little stiff when he has to turn inside. So that is actually where there was some struggle actually on his tape. Jordan Addison at 21, he's been a riser for me ever since I went back and watched the Pittsburgh tape. Because you watch USC tape, it's pretty good. He's productive. He's good on the outside. He can come inside and play a little bit here and there. He gets some separation. Then you go back and watch the Pittsburgh tape. He dominates the inside. He's in a different role, in a different system, on a different team, with a different quarterback. That's pretty tough, that he's effective in both, So that, to me, that's a very, very safe draft pick because you're going to get a guy that's productive for you. Is he the biggest guy? No. Is he the fastest guy? He's pretty quick, but no, he's not the fastest guy. Is he going to be the best receiver in football? No, he's not. But you get a good receiver that's going to get some separation, and he's going to play pretty well, whether you put him in the inside or outside, no matter what system you run. So over time, Jordan Addison has really, really grown on me because of that. And I bumped him up from receiver 3 to 2 because of that. 22, Will McDonald, who I might be a little bit higher on than other people, was playing out of position for Iowa State. Even though he was very good there, he was, they had a 3-man rush. Don't love that. Even though their defense was pretty good. But whenever he was able to stand up off the edge, he was very, very good because that's what he is. He's a stand-up edge rusher in a 3-4 that actually has more physicality than you think, being able to, have an experience playing over the tackle, inside the tackle sometimes. So I like the versatility there, and I think he's going to be he was super productive. I think he's going to be even more productive if he's just in the right, position, right scheme. Hendon Hooker at 23. Him and Will Levis are very close. Hooker is definitely better right now. Levis has some more upside. Hooker, smart. Actually, the best footwork, the best mechanics in the class, believe it or not. I think Stroud's very, very close. But Hooker, based on his smooth, his footwork, the drop back, he's actually the best in the class there. So you don't have to work on that, which that's good because he's 24. So you don't want to have to work on that. But got a good arm, pretty accurate, pretty smart. He had a unique system there, so that's kind of tough. But I think he can pick up anything pretty fast at the next level. And again, he's accurate. He's got the arm strength. He can move too. I know he's coming off the injury. I would imagine he's going to be all right, but he's smart, avoiding pressure and then, being able to move, knowing when to move. Then Will Levis, 24 again, he is super strong arm, a lot of upside. I think he'll be better right away almost with just a better offensive line. So that's great because the offensive line was awful in Kentucky. I keep talking about it. The lack of touch really throws me off, not knowing his own arm because sometimes he'll be short on a ball, or sometimes it's just you have no touch at all. You have just straight velocity on it. I think you can fix that, but he just can't get the ball placement right, sometimes. And is that something they could totally fix? And the mechanics, upper and lower body, are a little off. So it's a very risky pick because of that. Jalen Hyatt at 25, another guy probably a little higher on. I like him in the first round. Elite speed on the football field. Better after the catch than he gets credit for. Good blocker, you wouldn't think. He's a pretty good blocker. He does. People say he just goes deep, and that's mainly what he does. But he has a little bit more to his game than that, and I think he can dominate the slot. Teams really aren't going to press guys in the slot, and then therefore, you've seen a lot of guys from the slot playing really far off him. There's a reason for that. It's because he's got that crazy speed, and he still will beat guys. So he should be able to get open from underneath because of that. Again, 5 touchdowns against Alabama. That's one game. He had more than one game all year. They got to be game planning for that. They have to be, all right, this guy is the problem right now. We got to figure it out. And they still couldn't stop him. So that is some dominant, moments there. So he has it in him too. So like me some BJ Ojulari as well. Maybe people sleeping on him a little bit too. I love the outside pass rush moves, specifically the dip on the outside. Talked about it. It reminds me of Harold Landry a little bit. It looks good. It looks really good, the moves on the outside and being able to get after the quarterback. Good mixture of athleticism and power. He can drop in coverage, and he actually can align in different spots. Seen him like standing up over inside another edge rushers in rushing. So I love that as well. Emmanuel Forbes, who's been growing on me more and more recently, just a big-time playmaker. It is tough that he's 170 pounds, but big-time playmaker, super athletic, has the length. I like that he's effective in man and zone and press and off. I mean, that's usually your best corners right there. So he has that going for him. He's just a little thin, a little undersized, finds a way to get his hands on the ball. Sometimes the ball finds him, too. A little fortunate, but it happens, Nolan Smith at 28. Been bumping him up a little bit. I think other people are higher on him than me, but I see the upside. For sure. Freak athlete. I like how he stops the run. He plays bigger than his size when stopping the run. He can drop in coverage. He doesn't play bigger in size in terms of the pass rush, so he kind of relies off that speed and get off, which he has. He definitely has, but can he put together more? And I think he definitely can put together more moves. He's athletic enough, but can he find some more power? Because sometimes he just gets off balance, rushing the passer because the tackles, all they got to do is get a hand on him. So that's the tough part there. But I do see the upside, and I do like that he kind of looked a little more built and put together at the combine. So that kind of tell me, maybe he can kind of get going on that a little bit more. So a couple undersized guys in a row there, Forbes and Smith. Keanu Benton, who I'm going to be higher on than everyone too, big Keanu Benton fan, was playing nose tackle most of his career at Wisconsin. Then he kind of moved more to D tackle this year, but it was pretty even split. And he just looks like a natural at D tackle. I mean, he stops running at a very high level. He'll throw the guard around sometimes, and he'll collapse the pocket, create interior pressure. Just looks dominant at times. And that's why, to me, he's a first-round player. He just looks absolutely dominant, and he's just getting going at D tackle. And it's a bonus that you can kind of move him in on the inside as well and nose tackle. So I like Benton a lot. He's my second-rated D tackle. My top-rated D tackle might be the best talent in the class. We talked about Jalen Carter. So the next few guys, Dalton Kincaid, which he's going to be super productive. Like, he's going to be productive where it's going to look like maybe I should have had him higher than 30, but there's more to it than that. But he is very good. He's going to be productive. He's going to be a good route runner. He's going to make big plays. He was injured during the pre-draft process. And is he just going to be a big slot receiver? Can he block better? That's kind of the question. How often is he going to be on the field? Lucas Van Ness at 31, boomer bust guy. You're just high motor, get off, length. You're kind of going off that, that he can become a little bit more. His better play actually came from the inside. I just don't get the feeling he's going to be able to do what he did in the inside in college and the NFL. But he has a lot of upside off the edge. Josh Downs is just small. That's the only thing negative for him. I mean, he's a big playability. He's got speed. He's going to dominate the slot. He actually is a really good contested catcher. Zay Flowers, I like that he can play inside and out. I think he's going to have to play more inside at the next level. Because sometimes, physical corners could give him problems. Did have some drops, but I do think he can work the slot very well in the NFL. Big playability after the catch. Osiris Torrance, you just wish he had a little more athleticism because, if you're going to take a guard early, you got to kind of be a total package guy. He's not really that, but he's physical, very solid guard. Julius Brents I like a lot. Love the length. Love the zone coverage ability, the press zone as well. I see some upside in man. Could be a lockdown guy. I just can't get over that Baylor game. The Baylor game, he had a bit of everything, how lockdown and how fit, he's a thin guy and he showed physicality in that game. Brian Bruzzi would be higher if it wasn't for the durability concerns, some injuries in the past. And there was a freak thing in there that I'm not really too worried about, but a health concern. But he could be very good. He came in as an edge rusher, more of a D tackle now, so he's still kind of learning. And he's already really good. So he has a lot of upside on top of being good. It's just, staying healthy. Cedric Tillman, 3 receivers in a row that I've had a hard time splitting up. Cedric Tillman and Quentin Johnston are the big body receivers. Tillman actually is a little more polished. He was playing hurt this year. He was very dominant 2 years ago. Kind of compare that season to Johnston's season this year. I think that Tillman season was a little better maybe. He's a better contested catcher than Johnston. He's a better contested catcher than Johnston because he will high point the ball and he has better hands. Johnston is more athletic than Tillman. But where I'm liking Johnston a little bit more recently, because I was kind of firm on him, I will not take him in the first round. Now I'm a little okay with it, but because I do want to be more physical at the catch point, like attack the ball at the highest point and make the catch. But he'll fight off corners without interfering, in a physical way. I like his battle with Julius Brents, so that stood out to me. And there's a lot to work with there, but it is a risky pick because he drops the ball. He's not high pointing the ball right. He was stuck on one side of the field running like 2 or 3 routes, so it is a little risky. And then Jonathan Mingo at 39, who I like a lot. Wasn't very productive, so that's a tough part, but he's big, he's fast, he can play in the slot, he can play outside, he can play. They had him like an inline almost at like H-back or wing-back type spot, and he's a very good blocker too. Just maybe not as flashy as the 2 guys ahead of him. So those guys are right in the same spot for me. Drew Sanders, ton of upside, only played 1 year at the off-ball linebacker spot, can blitz. Kalijah Cansey, with him, I want to rank higher, but I got to be smart about it. How often are teams going to have him on the field? I wonder if teams will have him on the field more than just the obvious passing down. So that's why it's really tricky, because he's okay stopping a run, but can he get off blocks better? Will the length come into play? I think it will. He kind of relies on that first move a little bit, but he's really good at getting after the quarterback. It's just tough. How often will teams have him on the field? Therefore, he won't be as useful, productive, impactful, and I could be wrong, as some of these other guys, so I can't rank him quite as high. Anton Harrison, who could be a first-round tackle. Keely Ringo, who actually, I just did my quarter rankings, and I already bumped him up. I kind of talked myself into it during the cornerback rankings videos. He's got upside, a ton of upside. I could even see him at free safety, but upside at corner because of the length and the athleticism and the physicality. He's a little raw right now. He's a little stiff. But that really comes, with him planting his feet a little bit too much because he's not stiff athletically. So some things to work on. Keon White's growing on me a little bit too. And that is more, because now I think of him as more of an edge guy because I thought I was projecting him inside just because of the power. But I like that he can drop in coverage. I like the idea of him going to a 3-4 team. Actually, he could play 4-3-N, but 3-4 team and kind of moving around between 3-4-N and 3-4 outside linebacker because he has the ability to drop in coverage as well. So I kind of like that. But an upside guy at 24 years old, that's a tough part there. Steve Avila, who's a guard that can move around a little bit. And then Cam Smith, who I think needs a zone team. He's really instinctive and come up and attack the ball in zone coverage. So I do like Cam Smith a bit. Isaiah Foskey, who has the production. He kind of has everything but some pass rush moves and is a little stiff. But could continue with that production like he did at Notre Dame. Trenton Simpson, an upside guy, was more of a slot coverage guy. And then until last year, played more linebacker. You still got to learn the position a little bit more, kind of gather some instincts. And then you see some other guys here, topping off the list. Anybody I want to talk about? Adetomiwa Adebawore, I project more inside, but could do a little both. But I think he's got some work to do. But a freaky athlete. If he plays inside, he's the fastest man to ever play on the inside. So that's something special to work with. Tippmann, I like the idea of possibly moving him to guard. A couple pass rushers. Israel Abanikanda, I love at running back. Couple, we'll get this list out to everybody through our Twitter, probably on draft day as well, as what is more important at position rankings with the round grades. If you're a Twitter subscriber, you've been getting bonus content plus this stuff already. There's more rankings on here too, but we kind of wanted to just focus on the 50. I talked for a long time. Was that 47 minutes? I talked for a long time. Didn't want to talk that long, but mainly want to focus on the top guys here, the guys I wanted to highlight that are unique. It is a very unique draft. I see some people, I'm going to talk more. Some people saying this class isn't that great. It's not the best class in the world, but I think some people on Twitter ripping it a little too much. I think they see, well, this team's only got 17 or 18, 19 first round grades. That's actually somewhat normal. Maybe a tiny, tiny bit lower. We should have more, like myself, and if you do rankings out there, we should have more than NFL teams because we don't have a specific scheme. We're not taking guys off the board because they just absolutely will not fit. We're not doing that. So they're taking those guys off the board, off their board. They're taking health, durability concerns off the board. We still rank them. We might bump them down a little bit. We still rank them. They're taking character concern guys off the board. Some teams might have Jalen Carter off the board. I got him at 3, just like you. You might have him at the top 2. So we should have way more first round grades than teams. So I think people are saying teams only got 18 guys in the first round. That's somewhat normal. I mean, usually it's like 21, 22, 23, somewhere around there. So maybe it's a little bit. I do like, I think there's going to be some second round talent guys going in the third round. So I do like it in that range. I do like this class in the range. And I actually end up having more guys with elite grades than I thought I would, guys with more top 10 grades. But what's the word I'm looking for? I kind of give us a little bit of leeway because I just want people to make sure that if your team takes this guy, it's okay. Like if he's not ranked, if you takes him at 8 and he's ranked like 13, he's okay. So that's why I kind of group him, with that group there. And we'll do all of our grades and rankings throughout, during and after the draft. I always love doing that. So hopefully you can join us for all that. Make sure you like, subscribe, very important. Turn notifications on so you know when we go live for the NFL draft, and you know when videos drop. There always could be surprises as well. So links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.